Here we are. Okay, so welcome everyone to the November/December Frictionless Community Call. In theory, this is the November one, but because there was the US Thanksgiving, we thought about shifting it to 1 week. So today we're going to hear about the frictionless data seek and integration from my colleague Edgar Zanella, who's here, and I'm going to leave the floor to him to do this presentation. But before we do that, as usual, let's do a quick round of introductions, also because there are a couple of new faces around so that we all know each other first. So just to give you also a bit of a structure of the call. So we're going to do this quick introduction. Edgar is then going to present about the integration, and then we're going to leave at the end of the call, hopefully 15 minutes, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, to have a Q&A session. So if you have questions for Edgar or general questions about frictionless data, that's the moment to ask them. If you have anything else that you want to bring up, that's the moment. And maybe we'll have 1 minute of general announcement, and we should be finished at the top of the hour. So let's start with the introductions. I'm Sara Petti. I'm the Frictionless Data Community Manager, and I'm really happy to see you all here. I'm based in Bologna, Italy, but actually today I'm visiting my mom in the south of Italy. So I'm in a tiny village in front of the sea, which is really, really nice. Oleg, why don't you go next?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. This is Oleg Klabrovsky from Könitz near Bern, Switzerland. I'm one of the members of the Swiss chapter. I've been active in the open data community for like 15 years, and I'm organizing lots of events. We just had a big conference and kind of a virtual hackathon, and I'm also working in education at the moment, teaching students how to work with frictionless data packages and all that. So I'm very excited to be here. Should I throw the ball over to
Yes, please do, Oleg.
Aaron? Go, Aaron.
Oh, we don't hear you, Aaron.
Yeah, I think you're muted. You can just do an introduction using gestures.
Thanks, Aaron. Keith, why don't you go next, and then you can throw the ball at someone else.
All right. My name's Keith. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the National Institutes of Health and do research related to precision medicine and cancer. And I've been using Frictionless for at least a couple of years now, I think, and quite enjoy it. And I will pass it along to Francisco.
Hi, I'm Francisco. I used to work on the open data portal of the state of Minas Gerais, but I'm returning, actually yesterday I returned from an extended vacation, so I don't know about my professional future yet, but happy to be part of the community once again.
You want to pass to someone else, Francisco?
I'm sorry, and I pick Gabriel.
Hello, everyone. Gabriel here from Brazil. We've been working with Frictionless and Secam for a while, and that's why today I'm really interested to see what Edgar are going to show us today, and I'm really glad to see Francisco back here too. That's it.
Thanks, Gabriel. And before you get the chance, before
yeah,
the ball
Andrea.
someone else, can I please also remind that Gabriel and Francisco actually won the Frictionless Hackathon last year with sort of like early moment frictionless seek and integration.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for remember that.
Hello, everyone. I'm André. Nice to see you all again. I work with Gabriel on the Minas Gerais Open Data Portal. And as he said, we are excited to see what's going next about the integration between Frictionless and I pick to the next presentation.
Would you like to pick someone else to go after you, André?
Dan?
Sure. Hey, I'm Dan Fader. I'm in Philadelphia, in the US. So I work at a company called Civic Actions. I do open data portal work at the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and I'm one of the maintainers of DCAN, which is a Drupal-based open data platform. And I'll pass to, I'm always bad at remembering who's gone, Eder.
Eder, you muted.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Eder Porto. I am Products and Resources Manager at the user group Wiki Movimento Brasil, an affiliate for the Wikimedia Foundation, the only affiliate in Brazil. And I'm very excited for learning about the topic of today. Can I pass to Gleb?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hi. So my name is Gleb Kanuniko. I'm from Belarus, but I'm living in Poland now. So I was involved in preparing the technical requirements for the open data portal and for the government in Belarus before it became impossible to actually start the portal and before the political situation deteriorated and any cooperation with the government stopped. I'm also the maintainer of the NGO and volunteer-run open data portal that brings together all the cultural and nonprofit projects data that we can find, and we publish it using DCAN, which is like a Drupal version of CCAN. And now I'm trying to understand what the new context is and how I can be useful in the open data community when I'm not in Belarus, but trying to understand what it's like here in EU. And I also I'm also involved as an expert with Open Knowledge Sweden chapter, working on research on using open data for civic participation projects. So crowdsourced mapping, environmental projects, data, and all kinds of things. So I'm very excited to be here to find out about the new tools. And I don't think Stefano has spoken yet.
Thank you, Gleb. Hello, everyone. My name is Stefano. I'm an archaeologist at the Ministry of Culture in Italy. And since 2 years, I've been trying to build a specific profile of frictionless standards for archaeology data. So that's the main reason I'm here today. And in some years ago, let's say more than 10 years ago, certainly I was involved with the Italian chapter of Open Knowledge Foundation. And I was also involved for a while in the launch of the Italian CCAN data portal, but that's a long time ago. And so I think I'll pass the ball to Patrizio.
Yeah, thanks, Stefano. I'm Patricio, software engineer working at the Open Knowledge Foundation, mostly in CCAN development. Slowly introducing myself to the frictionless world, since I hear today that it was going to be talking about the integration between frictionless and CCAN. I say, hey, this is like a really good community call for me. So I'm here. I'm so happy to see a lot of people from Brazil. I'm from Argentina. And yes, happy to be here. And I'll pass to Augusto. I think you didn't.
Hello, everyone. I'm Augusto Herman. I'm based in Brazil. I'm especially interested in the topic of today because I have been using CCAN for like 14 years. I started the Brazilian Portuguese localization at that time. I also used CCAN to build the National Open Data Portal in Brazil and the National Open Data Policy 13 years ago. I'm no longer involved in that since 2019. Now I work as a data engineer in the Ministry of Economy, and we publish some open data sets And some of them use frictionless data, the table schema, data packages. So that's why I'm very much interested in learning about this integration. Even though regrettably this week, on this Monday, the National Open Data Portal has been updated to a new version, and we suddenly lost the CCAN API and no longer can use it. I hope that is temporary and it can come back. We had no warning about that. We used the CCAN API to update the datasets and data packages automatically using Apache Airflow. Oh, thanks, Edgar. We didn't know that. We work at the Brazilian government and we didn't know that. And I pass on to who hasn't talked yet.
I think we're only missing Sassi, probably. And Edgar, but
Okay.
Edgar will introduce himself before the presentation.
Sassi, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Sassi and I'm from Nepal, and I currently work as a developer in Open Knowledge Foundation. And I pass it to Edgar.
Hey. Hello everyone, nice to see a lot of people, some persons that I met before here. And I'm a developer working on Open Knowledge Foundation. I worked in Open Knowledge Brazil a long time ago, and Open Knowledge Germany also, but now since 1 year, I'm in the foundation working in a couple of different projects. One of them is involving SICAN and Frictionless. For this presentation, I'm going to share my screen. Let me see if everything is going to work. Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm Brazilian, but I live in Italy, in a small city called Rapallo in Liguria. Okay. Everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay. And basically what I'm going to cover here is some different kind of projects that we been working in the last months, involving SICAN or Frictionless. And first one is the SICAN extension called Data Packager. Second one is the SICAN Next Validation. And I'm going to go in details soon. And the last one, I would say the most exciting one, is the SICAN Data Portal support on the framework. And there is some work in a small Python library called the Frictionless SICAN Mapper that is working behind the scenes to convert between the data set format from SICAN to Frictionless and vice versa. You can load a package from SICAN and Frictionless or a resource, and there is automatic conversion of the names and metadata that's different. But first, the data packager. I'm going to share this notebook later, but basically all the projects that I'm going to talk here live in the Frictionless data GitHub repository. And the data packager is an extension that adds to the SICAN portal outside of add dataset, this import data package. This basically gives you in a SICAN portal another way to for the users or portal administrators to import a dataset, just providing a data package. And another thing that the SICAN Next extension is adds this download data package for any data sets that exist in your portal. This means that if you install this data package in your SICAN portal, even your data sets that don't have a data package, this button is going to generate one. I'm going to show this how this works. This is my local SICAN development instance. This import data package, you can provide a link to a remote location of the data package, or you can upload uploads. I have a data package here somewhere here. Okay, and you can choose the organization, if it's going to be visible or not. Let me import. And okay, this was a data package that I downloaded from this Minas Gerais portal, SICAM portal, and it basically imported the data set, imported the metadata, imported the resource information. You can see that the resource here is still pointing to the Minas Gerais SICAM portal, the file, and you can see now, okay, in the data sets, we have this private because I chose to be private. Now, automatically, we have the tags imported from this data set appearing in the SICAM facet filters. And if someone wants to download this as a data package, you just have this button and you're going to have a data package, a valid data package that you can use it or but it's publicly available in your website, or just a link to this button. It's also going to work. And as I said, I have, let me go back here, another, in this second instance, I have another data set that was not created using the data package, but it's, you can, even not having the data package existing here, you can use this export as a data package feature. And okay, let's go back here. And the validation one is another one that's a lot of work in the last 3 months, I would say. And it's pretty exciting because it's basically provide all the functionality that we have in the Frictionless framework on the SICAM portal, that you can use it to validate all the results, all the data sets. And how does this work? Let me show you. This is an example. You can configure your SICAM portal to use it. And the first thing that you need to configure, there's a lot of configurations to do that you can choose, like if you want the validation of your results being synchronous or not. Synchronous means that every time that someone upload a new data set, a new resource in your SICAM portal, the validation is going to run and is going to provide feedback to the user. Okay, this CSV has errors, has like double fields in the header, etc., or missing lines or missing column, etc. Or in this case, how I'm running here, it's asynchronous mode. This means that you can upload the resource, and after you reload the page, refresh the page, you're going to see the status of this data set validation. I have here 2 resources, that's basically 2 CSV files. One of that, after the validation pass, you have this label in the SICAM portal. This is a standard SICAM dataset page listing the resource. But what changed here is the first you have this metadata that you have the resource here label, meaning that if it's passed the validation or not, like if you click on the resource in the label, you are going to see the report. This is part of the Frictionless web components that display, okay, this CSV is invalid because it has a duplicate label. This means that it has 2 headers with the same name, okay, sex. And if you go here in the resource, don't click in the label, you can see the validation options, the schema, and validation status, and the last time that the validation ran. How do you configure the validation? Now, when you edit a resource in the SICAM portal, you're going to have option to upload the table schema here. It's a JSON file, or you can write it down here, or upload or put external link to a schema. And you can also provide all the options that you usually would use in the frictionless framework, like the layout of the CSV file, if it's comma or semicolon, if what's the comment symbol, etc. And also you can flag which errors, which validators you want to use. Like right now, you can see in the portal, we don't have any schema and any option for the validator, but we have the standard in the framework we call the baseline checks, like there's field count, round count, blank label, etc. Duplicate label is one that in the baseline that's automatically pass. You can configure in your portal which one of these checks that you want to be as default. But if in case that I don't want to check for duplicate labels, you can provide a list of names of this validation. Like I'm going to do this, skip errors, JSON, and now the data resource is valid. It's valid because I put this validation option. You can see more on how to pass these validation options. Like see here, we just released today in the GitHub the SequentX validation version 2 that has support for the framework, the version 5 of the framework. And yes, here it's the in the README you have the configuration. Okay, how you skip the errors, how you pass the dialect, and how do you configure each individual checks. Like you have a check called table dimensions and framework, and you can say, okay, this CSV or spreadsheet must have at least 3 rows. You can put a maximum number of rows, a maximum number of fields, etc. Each individual check has different kinds of configuration parameters. I suggest to look in the data checks, like table page, you have all the different parameters that you can use. But let's go back here. Yeah. I think this covers the validation. Let's go back to the presentation and let's talk about Frictionless as second as data portal. There is this new feature, exciting feature in the Frictionless framework that we already have support developed by Sassy for the GitHub and for Zenodo that we can import or publish packages.
I thought it was a big cookie. I was like, what is that?
Sorry?
I think someone at this sounds you want.
Okay. This Frictionless Sequence data portal is the third portal that was implemented for the framework. It's basically provide easy way to load the package that are living in a Sequence portal. I'm going to explain how to use it. First, there is now a new object in the library called Sequence control, and you can use a simple that you import the portals model and import the package as you would do normally in the framework, and you create the Sequence control. This is I'm showing first the most basic use case. That you just create an empty Sequence control. Sequence control is a class that you can pass a lot of parameters. I'm going to cover it later, but for now, I'm just saying that if I create a new package and I pass address that is living in a Sequence portal, and I say use the control of Sequence, what's going to happen if I run this? Okay, we have now a package that was loaded. It's exactly the package I was showing here, this one. You can see this, all the resource. You can check the like individual resource schema. That's unnamed resource is the first one here, and the path for this resource, etc. And after you loaded the package, you can use all the frictionless features in this package to validate, to check for, to infer the schema, check for errors, or etc., or convert, maybe export to a database or another format, etc. And as I said, this is the standard one that I'm just using the second control, but I could have used this base URL. That's basically you pass the base of your second portal, and then when you have that, you just need to pass the dataset ID or dataset name, and this is going to load as before. You don't need to provide the full path for this package. And you can also access private data sets. For that, on the example, I created this data set here that's private. If I try to access it without providing an API key, what you are going to have is, yes, you have this nice exception that says, okay, SICAM returned the error, authorization error, access denied. And anyone that knows Portan, SICAM is going to know that you can go your user, you can create an API token here, like I can create a new one, presentation. And then you have this long string, you just copy. And now I'm going to use it. I'm going to use this new API key. API key is equal API key. If you do that, and right, oh no, it's wrong. Okay, what's happening here? There is an error because it's complained that this data package has a schema that's not valid, and this is true. I investigated. This is not an accident from the presentation. I checked this data set, and it's this resource and has a schema that's not a valid one, because there is in the exception you can see the error. This missing values. Its missing values is not a valid constraint in the field level, just in the package level. But anyway, if this happens, you can pass to the control a parameter like ignore schema, like true. And what's going to happen? This is going to load the data set, and you have all the resources, and you have now the original schema metadata. That is the original schema. You can use this feature when you want to correct a schema that it's already existing in a SICAM portal. You can correct the schema, generate a new schema, and update using this frictionless portal. I'm going to show how we can do that. Okay. Okay, we covered how to do this. And well, you with this SICAM portal, you can also publish a package easily. Again, you need to have an API, especially for writing in a SICAM portal. And as we did before, but suppose that I have this file here. Suppose not, because it really exists here. You can create a package, what I did here. If I do this, you can see like the CSV was loaded. It's locally. I can first, it's important, if you create a package using the frictionless framework, you need to provide a name, because this is important for the SICAM side. SICAM need a package that has this name metadata. I'm adding this Zika virus data valido. Skip to English. And if I do this now, and okay, this is going to upload the package, including the resource, and is going to give you the output that is a link to this new package. That's including the data set that was imported. Let's continue here. And update a package. If suppose you want to push some change in the package, you need to do something a little bit different. Is for the control, you need to pass this parameter called allow update, because if you don't do that, back there, if I try to run this again, it's going to give you a warning that basically this URL is already in use, because I'm using the same name, and the second when you created the data set, the address is based on the name. I could say that this is the second one, and then it's going to work. But suppose that I want to have update this package. Okay, I get the ID. I'm going to pass here. I'm do as before, except now I using this parameter allow update. And one example is that, let me show here. This data set, this resource, if you note, there is no schema. That's the case of a lot of SICAM portals that the resource don't have a schema, but you can use Frictionless to infer the schema. And after that, if you publish and you have allow update equal true, what's going to happen is, let me go back here. Here, this is the data set that was updating, and now this the framework pushed a new version of the resource, and this new version has now a schema that can be used for the by the validation extension to check if the data set is valid or not. Okay. And another feature is fetching package using the catalog. This means that if you want to get a lot of package or do some search query in a second portal, I'm using the portal that is still alive, I don't know until when, for the Brazil federal government second instance. And if first thing that I'm going to show here, I'm going to explain this later, but let me just do this. First, ignores package errors equal true is a parameter that means, okay, if you are fetching like 1,000 data sets and one of them has some error in the validation or schema is not valid, ignore it. The function is going to fetch, print the ID. You can check what exactly is happening, why there is an error. You can specify the number of packages that you want, and you can specify the offset. I'm not going to put any offset. I'm going to say get 1,000 package, and if you do that, oh, no, yes, it's worked. I'm afraid that was. It's downloaded. You have the number of packages that were downloaded. You have the message or the package ID that has an error. I know what exactly this error is happening because there is some emails with some assets, and the validator is not proven that you can. We're still discussing what to do in this kind of case. But anyway, it's just 3 packages that failed, and now that you have this catalog, you can show what's the catalog. The catalog object has these packages. I'm going to just show the first one because there is almost 1,000, and you have all the metadata information for this package that was leaving the second portal. You have all the resource information, all the resource address, etc. you can, and I tested locally, but you can also use this to do iteration in all the packages from a second portal, and then you use the Frictionless framework to infer a schema, and then you update all these 1,000 packages you want to provide. But you also can use the second search endpoint instead of getting all the packages for a second. For that, I recommend to look at API guide package search endpoint for the second. But because second use behind the scenes the Solr search, and you have a special syntax to filter the dataset by different fields, different tags, etc. I'm going to just show the basic one here that I'm searching. This now to do the search, you need to pass to the control a dictionary called search, and this support all the parameters that's supported by second API package search endpoint. One of these parameters here is the queue, and I'm passing this word bolsa, and this is going to do a quick search, and not so quick. Okay, it's going to return 257 packages that match the word bolsa. It's very popular word to the Brazilian portal. You can also specify all the packages from organization, passing, okay, you have an organization name, and when you do that, you have much smaller version, a number of package. You can also, I think I did not create the slide, but you can also specify the group, passing the group ID. Group ID. I don't have any group ID in my mind here. Let me see. It's, yes, in Brazilian portal it's called Tima. Let me copy here this group ID. And I copied. Okay, we have 9. Let's check here. There was 9, and it's working as expected. No surprise here. We can see it's not a big number of. I'll patch again. So yes, we have all this data set metadata loaded here. Much more that you have just accessing their website, of course. And I think this cover, there is already in the framework some documentation. I think it was published today. It is in the data portals. Second, yes, it is. Here, how you treat a package, how you ignore a hazard schema, publish a package. There are some new features like the update of a package that is not covered yet, but it's going to update the documents in the next days. Reading a catalog, as you saw now, how to fetch a package. There are some new features being discussed as how to get out the, usually the second portal, they put a limit in the number, seeing question here. On preoccupation updates, what's the logical value which should be updated?
We can also do questions later if you want, Edgar,
yeah,
as you wish.
Yeah, and yeah, but I was basically going to open for the question now. And the logic now is it see all the resources that are not remote. This means that if you fetch the create a new resource that's leaving your computer and add this to a package that you downloaded like from a portal, when you update in second, it's just going to update the file, the results that are new inside in your computer and not the remote one. The remote one, it's just going to update the metadata. Like if you change the name, if you change the schema, it's going to update the results remote. I think this is up for discussion. It's not hard to change this behavior, but probably we will need some control in the second control, some parameters to say, okay, maybe specify which resource you want to update, because I can imagine that you fetch some data, and sometimes you need to update not the metadata, but you need to update the data set. Like this CSV has an error, you fix it maybe using framework, and then you update the data. To do that for just one resource right now, it's not going to work, except if you delete. Yes, I remember this public functionality update already exists, but do not delete. Maybe this is also another feature to think, but we need to think how to do this in a safe way. Round trip BDC. Yes. Did you manage to do the round trip? Yes, this is the frictionless second mapper, but there is still work to do for sure. And this is why I was testing in the Brazilian SICAM portal, and there was a lot of changes to the frictionless second mapper to do this mapping correctly, and probably we are going to find more corner case or other changes that need to be done. And yeah, and now officially open for questions.
Yes, so I think before we jump to live questions, there's a couple already in the chat. So Augusto asked one about what if SICAN instance has file storage disabled, and can you upload the resource to a different URL?
As fast as can you upload the resource to a different URL? A different URL, you mean a different resource URL? A new resource?
Yeah, in SICAN you can either upload a resource and SICAN will take it if it has file storage enabled. And in any case, we can also specify an URL for a resource, an external resource that's hosted somewhere else. So in the example you showed here, I think I may have got the wrong impression, but I think that the CSV file got uploaded in your SICAN instance there or not.
As I said, if the file lives in your computer, like in this example here that I created, where is it now? Wait. Yes, here I load. Where is it? This one. I'm creating a package based on a local file, and I give a name and I publish. This uploads to SICAN. But in case that I didn't have the file and I had a package with like a path to a resource, that's a remote resource, it is just going to update the metadata, include the links to the, as it happened for this metadata, this data set here. This file that we imported with the data package JSON, the behavior is going to be the same. It's going to create metadata. You're going to have the resource, but there is no file stored in the SICAN. And yeah, if your question understands upload the resource to a different URL, yes, you can. When you create the resource here, instead of doing that, I could create a package, edit the metadata, and put the path to any URL remote. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks. And I just like to add that when you use a remote resource, an URL, and in that case, the validation process is run only when you change the metadata again, right? For instance, if you point to the Minas Gerais data portal and they change the CSV there, you are not going, the SICAN portal your CKN portal is not going to rerun the validation because it will not know that the file has been updated, right?
Exactly. But the second next validation just run, I can be mistaken here, but just run to local existing files in your second portal. It don't fetch remote results and do the validation. But I can confirm this later.
Okay, thanks. And congrats for the work that's really going to help people that need to publish data packages in CKN. It's
great.
Seems really easy to use.
Thanks.
Okay, there's plenty of questions in the chat that are coming. I think there was another one from you, Augusto. I'm just going in order here. I'm not giving any preference to anyone. I'm just going into the chronological order. So Augusto asked also what kind of resources are recognized as tabular resources, and if you can infer a schema.
Do you mean for when you upload the package? Yes, it's using all the formats that you have in this port, the framework. It's the data format, CSV, Excel, but basically text files and PDF. Yeah, it's going to work, but as table schema, just Excel and CSV. File.
Including zipped CSVs?
Including zipped also, yes.
Okay, then the next question is from Francisco, who's asking, which strategy are you using to store the resource table schema? So,
yes,
for example, CKN scheming, do they integrate with data store, data dictionary?
Yes, as the CKN scheming extension, that is dependency for the second next validation. When you install the second, it's in the documentation of the second next validation that you need to have the schema and schema for the data set.
Congrats on the work. It's very useful for Minas Gerais, even though I'm not there anymore. But do you have integration with the data dictionary as well when I upload a table schema from data store?
Not yet, but I think it's a good feature request for sure. Wow. On the GitHub framework, I suggest to create this issue. We are going to try to track any suggestions later. But
there's a bunch of other questions from you, Francisco. One about publishing a package allowing updates. I think you already answered to that, at least partially, Edgar. The next one is, did you manage to do round tripping between CKN and frictionless metadata? Asking because of I mean, I'm really happy if you actually jump on the call and you ask the question yourself. I think you will look more intelligent than me reading.
Yeah,
I think Edgar answered that as well. That you are doing right. You are able to do what without losing information from resources in CKN and frictionless, because we had that problem here. That's because of the name and title mismatch between both schemas. It's just that the title is named title from name in frictionless is the slug, and name in CKN is like the human readable title from frictionless. Yeah. So it's you kind of lose that information if you're doing round tripping, and name is paramount in frictionless, right?
Yes. What I'm trying to do is when there is some destructive transformation, I add the original value like the schema as a metadata, additional metadata and the data package, and then I keep the original name. I'm doing that for the name, as an example, because the rules for the data package, the specs are pretty strict. You can have space, you cannot have uppercase, etc. and I'm keeping the original name as a metadata, but I'm changing use and role to, okay, put everything lowercase, remove space, remove weird symbols, so any kind of symbol that was not approved by the specs. Yeah. Okay. And it's also work on uploading data to data store respecting table schema information. I think I don't get this question.
So it's something that we also didn't work here, but it would be nice if when, for example, data pusher is pushing information inside data store, that the schema that is, for example, storing in the data validation, for example, extension is stored in the table, in the schema property, that the upload also respects that information, because otherwise you get only text or things like that.
Yeah. Well, if you fetch the data set first from your portal and using the framework, you can do the validation. And if you change something before you're trying to update, you can run the validation locally. If you are trying to update the package in a SICAN portal that's using the SICAN Next validation plugin, it's going to in synchronous mode. The synchronous mode means that, okay, if you do some update, it's going to give you an error if it's not following the schema. That this is going to already work in a way. But if we have no logic, if you try to update and the scheme and the SICAN endpoint return the error, okay, it is not valid according to the schema. We just give you the error. But SICAN Next validation is going to prevent this update.
I think this is not. I think this question is not even on the domain of CKN validation. It's a different thing. It's just because it's kind of related in the CKN and frictionless ecosystem. But it's just, for example, if I push a CSV file with a date, which is using, for example, a custom date format but is specifying in the table schema, and data pusher tries to add that to data store, we are not going to get a date in the Postgres database. So it would be nice, for example, if data pusher was able to, oh, I know that this date from the CSV is a date because even though it's using a different format, it's a date. So I'm going to push it correctly. But it's just to see if this is on the roadmap for the future, but it's not on the same.
Yeah, this in theory, if I understood right, you could do with the framework, right? You can have a schema describing your data that must follow some rules in the data store, and you can, if your data store is a different version of the data, that you can use like the transform of the data set and change the schema, describe the data in another format, and before pushing, you need to do this conversion. Yeah, but if you have a schema from the data store and automatically know how to convert, there is no feature like that, I would say.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time left, but there's a question from Oleg.
Yes.
Do you want to read it yourself, Oleg, or do you want me to?
Yeah, and if there is a way of specifying that is a second source in that package, not that I know, and you could always have a metadata. We say, okay, let's have a metadata. In the standard, in the specs, there is no way of specifying this. And this is why we always need to have this control object saying this is a second control. It's not easy like Zenodo or GitHub that we can infer by the host name, by the URL, because a second portal can have any name. And the only way to infer that a second is passing a second control to the package object or the cat.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Oleg, for the question. And then there's a question from Dan, which was already answered partially by Francisco already. Dan, do you want to read your question?
Yeah, it was just a thought when you were talking about knowing when to sort of refresh the local downloaded version of a remote data file, that if there was a, if there was a hash comparison, you could easily tell if there was an update.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. But you would need to have this in the SICAN. I'm not sure if the SICAN has already a hash for the file. Probably it has, and we would just need to calculate the frictionless side. But yes, it's a good idea. Thanks. but we don't have it. No.
Got it. We're working on something similar in DCAN, so just.
Okay, well, thanks all for your questions. Sadly, we are almost at the top of the hour, and I want to use this last little minute to give a little bit of announcements. So first of all, the next community call is going to be on the 22nd of December. If anyone wants to present anything, we don't have anything yet scheduled, so please just drop me an email or say something in the Matrix or in the Slack chat. If you would like to present something, we would love to hear from you. The other piece of announcement that I wanted to make is that we are co-organizing the Open Research Tools and Technology track at FOSDEM 2023. And while the conference go back to physical this year in Brussels, we have decided for our track to keep 25% of the conference online. So in case you're interested, there are both options. The application form is very easy, and I really invite you to participate. It's a lovely conference, and it's happening in, I have a blank now. I think it's beginning of February. Yeah, it's 4th and 5th of February in Brussels or online. And then I think actually that's all the announcements that I wanted to make. So thanks all for joining today. It has been lovely to see you. I'll see you all again on the 22nd of December. Again, if you have a presentation that you would like to make, let us know. And if you have other questions about the CCAN integration, you can come and ask them in the community chat, and we will be there answering them. Thanks, Edgar, for your lovely presentation also.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Edgar. Take care, everyone.
Bye.